However, we will talk about Blizzard.
Right.
Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Because,
All right.
if you just think it couldn't get worse, Blizzard just keeps finding a way to make it worse. And the worst part is, 90% of obviously a lot of these wounds are self-inflicted because they're allowing those behaviors to go on through the company, and that's certainly self-inflicted. But even the PR aftermath is a bunch of self-inflicted wounds that were 100% avoidable, 100% didn't need to happen. And this week, it just went nuts as the Wall Street Journal broke its reporting that they'd been investigating for about the last 2 months or so. And they found that, hey, one of the worst things that could happen when you're the CEO of a company is you come out and say, hey, didn't know this stuff was going on. We're going to make a lot of changes. And then have it found out that you did know. That's one of the worst things that could happen.
Yep.
That happened. But it gets worse. Not only did the Wall Street Journal allege that Bobby Kotick, Activision CEO, knew about this stuff, but they also allege that he helped hide some of it, and then that he also, was a perpetrator of harassment himself. That part I wasn't all that surprised about, though, Zach.
But it gets worse.
It does get worse, and we'll kind of roll into this because these things happened over 48 hours.
So I brought the entire bottle this time.
I don't know. I wasn't surprised that. I mean, he had a suit against him back in 2009, 2010, something like that for harassment allegations. So I wasn't all that surprised by that portion of things. And, I mean, depending on if you want to get real conspiracy theory or how far you want to get into stuff, he was in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. If we go that route. So this isn't a guy that I'm surprised has taken advantage of his powerful position, Zach.
Yeah. Did you want to cover the voicemail as well?
Go for it.
He allegedly threatened to kill someone.
Yeah, you can go in that one.
Yeah. So it got worse because there was apparently reporting on a alleged voicemail. I don't think there's actually a recording of it that we know of, where the person who he allegedly sexually harassed or abused, he threatened to kill them. So that's Bobby Kotick for you. And when you really think about Bobby Kotick as a whole, I always look back to that meme that people have where he's the devil and whatnot. And it's just more and more enlightening to us that he really is that guy. It's not a meme anymore. It's he's actually him. And that's not really just about the whole sexual assault, sexual harassment ordeal, the voicemail ordeal. You even trace back to his standard business responses to things, the stuff that he does and pushes within the industry. All of it is just the most egotistical, shady, assholey type material that just make up Bobby Kotick as a whole. Yep. So this isn't really surprising. It's just abhorrent, and something needs to change at that company. Top down, a lot of people need to be cleaned out, starting with Bobby Kotick, because nothing is going to holistically change without him being removed.
Yeah, and Yad, I mean, talking about other allegations, Jen O'Neill, who was made co-president of Blizzard with Mike Ybarra when J. Allen Brack was ousted. Mm-hmm. Apparently, there were, she resigned, right? And she publicly said, I think that, there's still hope for Blizzard. I want to go help in the industry as a whole with this type of stuff, not just in one company. Behind the scenes, Wall Street Journal finding out that, she actually left in large part due to the fact that she was not given equal pay with Mike Ybarra when they were both given the exact same co-equal, you both are in charge 50-50 position. And when she tried to push for that, and Mike Ybarra pushed for that too.
Yep.
Trying to get her. It was ignored until she actually said, okay, I'm resigning. Then all of a sudden, here comes a package maybe offering the same thing. So the exact thing that the DFEH in California was one of the things, I should say, the DFEH was investigating for, they did it again Oh, and by the way, remember Fran Townsend's email to the employees the day after the DFEH allegations broke that pissed off all the employees because she was like, I've never seen any of this stuff. We're a good culture.
The denial?
Yeah, the denial. Yeah, it turns
nice
out turns out Bobby Kotick wrote that email and sent it out via Fran.
Yeah, that's
wow. That email that he later publicly made a statement lambasting that email and calling it a tone-deaf response.
Right. Sounds par for the course for him. The thing with O'Neill, wasn't there a story from Ybarra that said that there was a contract thing going on as well, where they were under different contracts, and once the contract was up, they were gonna get new contracts for the same compensation for the role and stuff like that.
It really doesn't matter, because like when you are taken from if Zach and I are senior executives at a company and something blows up, and maybe I've been there for 12 years, Zach's been there for 6 years, through the natural pay progression and annual reviews and stuff, I'm making more than Zach. That's to be expected. But that minute that you say, hey, we're in extraordinary circumstances, Zach and Mike, we want you to run this joint, be 50-50. Then you know what you do at the same time? You immediately nullify your existing contracts. You can do that if both parties agree. Yeah. And you reinstitute a new contract. It is not that hard to do. You don't have to, we have a contract for another 8 months, Zach. We're going to have to wait. No, if Zach agrees and the company agrees, you cancel the contract and draft a new one.
Yeah, that's the thing that smelled odd to me about that comment, is that the moment you take up this new position, because she was head of the Vicarious or
and she's been there a lot longer. Yeah. She's been there a lot longer than Mike has. Yeah.
Right, but she was somewhere else in another job, and then they start this new job. So with a new job, you get a new contract. Doesn't matter what your old contract says or when it's up, the new contract comes into effect because it's a new job, which should have been even across the board.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do. Zach, you had already mentioned, something needs to change. Something needs to change, right? And we've already seen hundreds of Blizzard employees do almost an immediate walkout the day that this stuff started breaking. We also saw both Activision Blizzard release a statement that was very generic and literally was just kind of like, this reporting isn't accurate and they're not taking into account all of the things we're doing. Well, they don't have to, because they're reporting on things that have already happened.
Yep.
They're not saying going forward he has done this. They're looking back and saying he did this.
And the thing is, it doesn't really matter what he's done going forward either, because honestly, now we know for sure, and this happens quite a lot actually, where someone does something and as a result, they try and overly compensate by basically virtue signaling, because it's not actually honest. It's not their honest intent. It's good things. It's just not their honest intent. And that's exactly what Bobby Kotick did. He conceded to some of the things that Activision Blizzard employees wanted.
4 days before the financials were publicly available.
Right.
Yeah.
4 days before the financials came out.
Yeah. Very important.
He had already seen them. He knew.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, no matter how much he concedes to, it's all just because of what he did in the past that he's trying to cover for. He's trying to improve his optics so that way he could say, oh, well, I did X, Y, and Z. It's like, that doesn't matter. You're still the asshole who allegedly, and I keep saying allegedly, even though we kind of know it's Bobby Kotick, right?
Yeah.
Threatened to kill someone who he sexually abused. And also on top of that, had past instances of the same type of stuff. And he's covering for also other people who, during their zero tolerance harassing policy, they even covered up and brushed up some other people too. So like, you could tell his intent is not for good. It's just to try and cover up his tracks. That's all it is.
Yeah, and we do have what is a little bit odd about this one, or a little bit, I shouldn't say odd, a little bit different, right? A few years ago, we had the Riot stuff happen, right, with Riot Games, very similar allegations, workplace culture violations, stuff like that. We still have ongoing with Ubisoft. I find it very important, at least for me, to keep bringing up Ubisoft when we talk about Blizzard, because these are
Yeah.
These are side-by-side things going on right now, and Ubisoft is flat out ignoring a better Ubisoft, the group of employees that have their own demands to try and make things better. They're just getting flat out ignored. They're not even getting the lip service that the Blizzard employees are getting, which has led to incremental changes that are net goods, even if they were done for the wrong reason.
Right. Well,
But
Ubisoft also doesn't have a State Department breathing down their neck with a case.
yet.
So yet, it's
Yet.
true. Yet.
But what you do see that is a little unusual here in Blizzard that you haven't seen with Riot, you haven't seen with Ubisoft, you haven't seen with it, is other major company CEOs saying something publicly. That doesn't happen very often. Because,
this is great.
Yeah, because you normally don't want to go casting stones at houses when you're in charge of such a big house that you might not know exactly what's going on in every room at any given point yourself. But we have actually had both Phil Spencer from Xbox and PlayStation leadership being publicly vocal both to their employees and external to the direct public. In fact, Jim Ryan from PlayStation reached out, sent the employees at Sony an email saying, "We outreached to Activision immediately after the article was published to express our deep concern and to ask how they plan to address the claims made in the article. We do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation," because they didn't. They didn't.
Right.
Xbox head Phil Spencer went a little bit further in this one, saying that they're going to evaluate their relationship with Activision Blizzard. And he informed that to his entire staff and would be making proactive adjustments. Again, another email sent to staff that was also, picked up by Bloomberg and other outlets as well. So you have two major players. Now, will they actually pull away from Activision? No. They're not going to pull away from money. Unless Yad, they feel they have to.
Well,
and honestly,
you're right.
This situation is burning to an extent that they might even at some point have to threaten that. There's tens of thousands of people or thousands of people signing a petition for Bobby to resign. There's thousands of employees that want him to resign. There's a public call from other CEOs and, more importantly, shareholders, albeit a very small group of shareholders as far as their share power.
But that
can grow.
Yeah.
That can grow. There are calls for him to be ousted.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start playing with Sony and Xbox publicly saying we're going to kind of evaluate things, then you very, very, very deeply are starting to impact the stock price, which then encourages shareholders to vote a certain way. I don't know. This is the part that you very rarely see, Yad.
It's rough, and it's a very loud statement for these companies to do that, especially Xbox because with Xbox you get Microsoft, and with Microsoft you get PCs, and where do a lot of Blizzard people play their games? On PCs.
Yep.
So it's a domino effect, and if it works, it works. And with Kotick, I mean, he's obviously not gonna win the public trust back like their board claims that he's gonna, because God,
did you see the video he did?
Look at the guy.
No.
Oh.
Did you see the video where he was sitting there talking about this report and how it?
Oh my God!
It was such a scummy video. Big question though, Zach. It's very easy for Xbox and Sony, albeit brave, but very easy to publicly say something. But if we get 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks down the road, and nothing's happened, can you actually see Sony or Xbox pulling the trigger on a bigger move of some type?
So
that's when I think this becomes a. Are you as Troy said on Always Online podcast? Are you talking the talk and walking the walk, or are you just going to talk the talk?
Yeah, all this is already unprecedented for them to come out and do
it definitely is. Yeah.
But what I will say is that speaks volumes of two things. Number one, the amount of concern that all their employees brought up probably in team meetings and whatnot, Sony and Microsoft, and also the fact that I think, quite honestly, I mean, who wouldn't like or hate Bobby Kotick? I mean, he doesn't seem like the most likable person just in general, even when he has his most nice looking face on, right? So
Oh,
I could see an
sorry.
instance where and it's difficult because they can immediately get him fired within a week if they pull all the games from their platforms. It would
Yeah.
happen in a week
Right.
because the board doesn't care about Bobby Kotick. I mean, there's a little bit of friendship there, but if you sink that ship, he's gone in a
It's
week.
the it's
No
the
doubt.
bottom line.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
So
That's all they care about.
yeah, but there would be a little bit of a unprecedented nature there where but I think a lot of people would understand why it would happen where okay, now we're saying Sony and Microsoft that if they disagree with someone or don't like someone, they can basically sink them. So there's that angle as well that they would have to tread carefully with because they have a lot of other bigger partners too. Maybe not even that desirable partners as well. So I see that for them to walk the walk and do that is a little bit more difficult than just us thinking, oh, they
Exactly.
should just pull those games off of there.
That's my
I
whole
think
point.
it
I
would make
find
a
it,
massive
yeah.
statement, and I think everyone would endorse it and be super happy that they did it, and it would boost the reputation of Microsoft and Sony significantly. But I just know those backroom deals that they have with other
Mhm.
corporations and other players in the industry, it might shake those waters a little bit. So that's why we might not see something as drastic as that.
We are seeing, though, other organizations start to pull out, right? And we saw that in the initial wave of stuff with some sponsorships for the esports side of Blizzard's business. Girls Who Code, that organization has had a long-time partnership with Activision. They're pulling out of that relationship as well. So we are seeing that. I mean, it all comes down to one question. Does Bobby Kotick remain in charge at Activision Blizzard? And I know it costs you a lot of money to fire him. You know, that's the nature of CEOs. Unfortunately, golden parachutes are bullshit. They're absolute bullshit. But he is the company would be on the hook for Forbes estimated like $250 some million if he were just fired. $250,000 if he were fired with cause. It may be a little challenging to prove with cause, and you may not want to go through all the legal battles to try and prove cause in this case. That would be up to Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
If he resigns, then you have a chance to negotiate, right? The two sides, the company and Bobby Kotick, probably sit down at the table and hash out the details of his parachute in exchange for his resignation. You have all those options. None of them are cheap as far as being Activision Blizzard. The cheapest is fire him with cause and prove it really, really quickly so that you're not in court for a long time fighting this one out.
I don't think Kotick would even want that to happen.
I don't think he would either, but I think, Zach,
because
his ego,
everything would be brought to light.
I think his ego stops him from resigning, though.
You think?
It's true. Yeah.
And that's the safe play. You sit down with the board and you say, I'll turn in my resignation. Let's negotiate my parachute.
Right, because you resign, and then you can write the story. Oh, hey, the company was going in a bad direction, and it was in the best viewpoint for the company in the future for me to step down, and then you can get another job as another CEO somewhere else.
I don't think his ego lets him do that.
But if they go to court and they fire him with cause, because they're going to want to, with the difference in price tag there.
Yeah, it is a big difference between the two.
And an actual voicemail of him threatening a person's life.
If that voicemail exists somewhere, he's done.
Real, that's real.
I have been like publicly all over Twitter and everything, whether it's from MMO Bomb's account with just like reminder, Bobby Kotick needs to resign. Yeah, it's just he needs to go. He's not the only one, by the way. He is not the only one.
No.
But he is definitely one of the ones.
I will say too, another option besides Sony and Microsoft pulling the plug on the games is players pulling the plug on their wallet, going to Bobby Kotick. That's a plain and simple solution. because the board isn't going to see, oh, these games are dying, let's fire a bunch of employees. They'll see, oh, this happened and this is the result of what just happened, causing our profits to drop. And as a result, let's get rid of Bobby Kotick. Because quite frankly, a lot of people are worried, oh, well, if the profits drop, employees will be let go. There could be a case where that could happen a little bit, but guess what happens when they're very profitable? They let employees go.